everybody calls this a coronavirus bill. We didn't even, have any testing in the coronavirus bill. Coronavirus bill, yeah, okay, so 4.5 trillion. 4.5 trillion. Here you go, Wall Street, here's 4.5 trillion. Warren Buffett, in spite of these trillions of dollars liquidity and all this, all these financial accounting magic tricks, Warren Buffett sells $31 million worth of his stocks. Warren Buffett is out. Warren Buffett is dumping his stocks. Nearly 900,000, nearly 1 million stocks. Warren Buffett says, nope. The Oracle of Omaha. He once said, they asked him, if this is class war, then his class won. If there really is a class war, the rich people have won. There is, the working class, there's a good union. You think we're going to confront the Fed and the financial and the rich plutocratic industry? You think we're going to confront the billionaire class? The state of economics, the state of American economics. So we're $23 trillion in debt. Donald Trump has added $4 trillion already. Now $2 trillion, $4 trillion. Who knows how this accounting works? But there's going to be more money, right? We're spending money, so that means 23 trillion, maybe 25 trillion now. We're running a $1 trillion deficit. It's 500,000 homeless people in America. So while the rich CEOs and the hedge fund managers, while these corporations and these board of directors that were terrible at governing, we're going to go ahead and make sure they got golden parachutes. Make sure they're doing just fine and dandy. Meanwhile, people that need it, we got a high child and elderly poverty rate, 15% poverty in general, which is 35 million Americans got a poverty death sentence. Minimum wage is still $7.25, and 80% of Americans work paycheck to paycheck. 80% of Americans are just a few paychecks away from poverty and or homelessness. So where should have, 6 trillion, 4.5 trillion, 2 trillion, however you want to, divvy up the money for the coronavirus, the CARES Act, because they cares about us. They cares about us. They cares. They loves us a lot, okay? 80% of Americans work paycheck to paycheck. And so therefore, 1/3 of Americans didn't pay their rent on time in April. 1/3. 17 million unemployed. We needed to give $2,000 universal basic income to each one of, Americans until this crisis is over. That guarantees the stock market won't crash. That guarantees spending will happen. Instead, these assholes are going to take money, build up assets, build stocks, bonds, and they're not going to lend any money out. It's not going to fucking help. The Fed does not represent the American people. The Fed represents the U.S. Treasury and the banks. And that's it. So, $4.5 trillion, that'd been better spent if it was handed directly into the American people's pockets. In fact, if you look at the total amount, right, $4.5 trillion is what Wall Street got. We got what? We got some unemployment. We got some stimulus. We got some small business loans. I guess we could accept that as our victory. So small business loans, unemployment, insurance expansion, and the $1,200 stimulus checks, that's less than $1 trillion. So the American people got less than $1 trillion, and Wall Street got $4.5 trillion. So they got 4.5 more, 4.5 times more than what we got. We got $1,000, $1,200. They got 4.5 times that. So there's what? Another $5,000 out there. Another $5,000 to $10,000. Where did that $5,000 go? That should have gone into our pockets. Instead, the Democrats, the Republicans, including Bernie Sanders, including AOC, they went ahead and voted to prop up this entire corporate financial Wall Street, banker hedge fund, commercial paper, repurchase agreements, bank agreements, credit default swaps, derivatives, so many goddamn financial terms that's out there. So which class won? Warren Buffett's class. That's who's won. In the stimulus bill is 96-0. So unanimous. Wall Street is sick. We gotta save Wall Street. Unanimous. 100%. 96 or virtually unanimous. What if we had universal health care? What if we had, ending police brutality? What if we had a taxpayer bill of rights or an economic bill of rights? Or what if we went ahead and legalized marijuana? What if we would have done any progressive thing at all? Universal child care, universal college, universal basic income. Would we have got a unanimous verdict? No, it's only Wall Street. Only when Wall Street is sick is the only time that the American government gives a goddamn fuck. They'll throw patents out to the working people, but it's actually the banks and the financial industry that they're propping up. The 1,000 plutocrats, the oligarchy. So the majority of the money that was spent goes to the establishment. And nobody even knows where it's going because there's no oversight. TARP, we had oversight. It went to all the big banks, AIG, Bank of America, Morgan Stanley, all of them. There's like 8 specific banks, and then PNC Financial and some of the smaller ones. They got a small $8 billion loan. PNC Financial did in 2008, and then they turned around and bought National City with that. So PNC Financial took a loan from the American taxpayer and bought another business. Yeah, who bails us out? Who makes sure we have liquidity? If you fail small business, if you lose your job, nobody's going to make sure you got liquidity. Nobody's going to make sure that your dollar is strong. Nobody's going to make sure that you can pay your bills. Nobody's going to give a shit if you're homeless. No one's going to give a shit at all. So the overall economic perspective in America, it's not totally terrible. It's not, there's some industries that's kicking ass and taking names. But right now, with the unemployment numbers, unemployment is underreported anyways. So we're being told 17 million Americans are filing for unemployment insurance. So what about the people that didn't file? And then what about the people that were unemployed prior? This is 17 million new unemployed. So who are the people that, there was 3% or so that's at least 1 million or 2. So there's 17 million lost jobs. In 3 weeks, we've lost 10% of the job force. In the payrolls, it was 151 million. So that was, technically the labor force who was actively in the labor force. In March was 151 million. 17 million lost jobs, that's 10% of the total job force. It's insane. 27 weeks, if the trend continues, and 7 months, every 3 weeks we lose 17 million jobs, we're going to have no more workers. 10% of the total job force, 10%, so just multiply that out by another 10. That means nobody's working if we see these numbers continue with the trend that they're going on. So there's not going to be, we're going to need workers. How are we going to make any, with the corporate executives? Are they going to do the manual labor? So even corporate media admits that we're in a short, deep recession. But they say spending will continue, so, the economy's fine. The economy will be all right. We're totally reassured. How is spending going to continue when we're in a recession? All these industries, Hollywood and NHL, all these, they're all shut down. Some industries are kicking ass, but, we're in a recession because we're staying home, right? So nothing's being produced, nothing's being made. We're not adding to the GDP. So they get unemployment, I guess, but for how long? And then it's not much. So they're going to spend their stimulus and their unemployment. Is that how? Spending will continue. We're in a short, deep recession right now, but don't worry, America. Somehow you're going to find the money and you'll just keep on spending anyway. So that's what's going to save the economy. The current labor force is 165 million, and 25% is 41 million. 17 million is about half of that. So we're on track for Great Depression numbers. It took a year to get 30 million unemployed in the Great Depression. It took, the Great Recessions, 2008, we saw 30 million unemployed. But it took a year. It took a year to get 30 million unemployed. For the Great Depression, in the worst year, 1933, we saw 15 million unemployed. But it took 4 years. It took 4 years after the triggering event to get to those kinds of numbers. After the stock market crashed, 4 years later, 15 million, also 25% was unemployed in America. So this is the worst of the Great Depression, 1933. So we got 17 million, and 15 million was the worst. So our total number is already beaten, past But that's 1933, so, clearly the population is different. But I just told you, right, 151, so actually the current labor force is 165 million. So it's not just the people who's on the payrolls. The labor force is anybody able and willing to work but cannot work. So if people are like old, retired, ain't going to work, children, there's a lot of people that don't get counted. So how many people are part of the labor force in America? 165 million. 25% of the total labor force in America today would be 41 million. So if we look and compare to the Great Depression, adjust for percentage proportionality, 25% is 41 million. 41 million is the benchmark. When we see 41 million unemployed, that's when we say that's a Great Depression. That's what happened in 1933. When we see 41 million, so we're not there. We're not there. 17 million was unemployed. The 14 million, so we're still, another 24 million to go. So we still got another 24 million to go, but it took 3 weeks. It took 3 weeks. It took 4 years for the Great Depression. It took 1 year for the Great Recession to get to 30 million. We're seeing these numbers, just shoot up in 3 weeks. So Wall Street, the Dow Jones goes to a nosedive quickly. America, gets their shit together. And then there's also the people that's already unemployed. So 17 million, right? We're not at Great Depression numbers yet, but it's 3 weeks. So wait another 3 weeks. 17 plus 17, that's 34 million, right? If the trend continues 3 more weeks, 34 million is going to be unemployed. Let's wait another 3 weeks. That's 51 million. 41 million was the benchmark. So we're at 51 million in just 6 weeks, another month and a half. Another month and a half, and then we'll be at Great Depression levels. So that's, 1.5 months' time. We're going to be seeing worse numbers than the Great Depression. This is ridiculous. Get your money out of the banks. Do like Warren Buffett is doing. Drop your stocks. Drop your bonds. Invest in money. Invest in land. Invest in gold. Just those are the only things you should worry about. Those things are the most valuable things in all human history. The American dollar is fine for now. They're not just printed up like the Weimar Republic and the inflation and wheelbarrows full of money. So as long as there seems to be some logic behind the thing, and as long as Americans continue to pretend that cash has value, then the American dollar could pull through. The banks will do fine, right? We made sure the banks aren't going to fail. But are the American people going to fail? In fact, some people say for capitalism we should let the small businesses and let the banks and let the people lose their jobs and then move the fuck on. Evolve. Do something better. Do something more valuable. Start a business. If a bank fails, if a business fails, then perhaps the demand wasn't there. The people just didn't want it. So that's what capitalism, true blue capitalism, laissez-faire, no government involvement. That's what capitalism is. Free market, free trade. So now we have big government all over the place, and you only have one libertarian, Thomas Massey, and all the Republicans are saying, yeah, let's spend tax, spend money, who gives a shit? Yeah, what, $23 trillion in debt? We've already got $4 more trillion onto our debt with Donald Trump, a Republican. Why are the Republicans inflating the debt? I thought the debt was like, Barack Obama was terrible because of the debt, and now we have 23 trillion, maybe 25, who knows how many more trillion they're going to get with the next CARES Act, the next coronavirus bill. So last point, according to Hegel, history through conflict, wars, revolutions, all throughout history, it's just oppressors versus the oppressed. There's advances and progresses. History goes forward because of the grit of the oppressed, because of the locomotive electrolyte, hard, bitter struggle. Peace and harmony don't make for progress. So because they had grit, because they fought, because they advanced, because they progressed. History through conflict, wars, revolutions is between oppressors and the oppressed. But we continue to advance and progress because of that friction, because of that fight, because of the grit of the oppressed. That's Hegel. So just keep on fighting, America. Keep fighting. Use common sense. You got to worry about the virus, but you also got to worry about your economics. You got Warren Buffett dumping his stocks. You had all those congressmen, all those senators who dumped their stocks before this shit hit, right? So that should signal Donald Trump never invested in the stock market. You don't have to invest in the stock market to be rich. 2/3, 1%, 2/3 of all the stock in America is only owned by 1%. Most Americans don't even own stock. So there's no reason why Wall Street collapsing or the banks collapsing means that the rest of the working class has to collapse. Just take care of yourself. Make sure, you and yours, your friends and your family, make sure you guys, make sure you take care of yourself. And I'll see you on the flip side. John Masters, 5:43 p.m. Saturday, April 11th, 2020, Southern Colorado. See ya on the flip side.
Peace out.
My brother.